What's good, YouTube? Jay Lee here, Northwest Podcast. This is going to be a hard one for me to do. First of all, I'm in the process of backing up all my videos because YouTube keeps basically flagging me for hate speech in a lot of my videos. So I'm in the process of downloading all my videos. I'm basically almost done anyway. So I'm going to be starting a new channel. I've already got another channel up. Not sure if you guys know that, but I've already got another channel up. It is what it is. I make my videos basically for guys above me who maybe could get some ideas out of my videos, who have more followers. I don't really make my videos for followers or for them to be exposed to a great audience, because I already know that's not going to happen, because that's not the way that I talk. I'm not entertaining like that. I know that. I've known that for a long time. My hope and goal has been, probably since I figured that out, which was like 2 or 3 years ago, I figured out, I'm not going to be that popular. My goal was to share my ideas so that YouTubers, red pill YouTubers who are higher up, could listen to my videos and get ideas from my videos, and then take the ideas from my videos and then share them, right? You know, they could say, oh, well, this is a good talking point. Yeah, I've experienced that. Let me talk about that. And they could essentially just get ideas from what I'm saying. And that's been my goal really from day one, or excuse me, not day one. Since I figured that out, that I wasn't going to be that popular, because it's just the way I talk. I'm not that entertaining, whatever. So anyway, I'm in the process of doing that. And I'm also going through, some personal stuff and things like that. I made a video. What I want to talk about today is hard, because it's difficult for me to figure out an angle to talk about it, because there's so much to talk about. There's such a massive amount of information that I can't condense it down into a half hour. So it's been difficult for me to figure out what angle to talk about it from, and that's my ex, right? That's my ex-girlfriend. And I tried to make a video on it called She Was For The Streets, and I got about, I basically just, cut it off because it was too hard to talk about. And essentially, I made the videos private because I didn't want to, it was too long. It was just too long. I was too detailed on it, and it was too long, and I didn't have a point. And it was just like a story, and it was just too long. And I felt like there was way too much talking, without really getting to any points of the red pill or female nature, things like that. I think some people enjoyed it, but also I felt like maybe it would, kind of made me look bad, or I don't know. At any rate, I just fucking privated the video. So I want to talk about that again, but I want to talk about it from I want to see if I can make some good points. Because again, I think really the main reason why I privated those videos was because I didn't make any good points on it. It was like just a story. It's such a long story, because it basically encompasses the last 10 years of my life, from 2011 to 2021. I'm still going through it, right? I guess the main point would be very, very careful who you date. Be very, very careful who you sleep with. Be very, very careful who you have feelings for. But then again, maybe I'm not the average guy. My life is a little different. I've learned a lot about myself through finding the red pill. Finding the red pill is one of the best things that ever happened to me, in a way. Because I didn't realize how blue-pilled I was. I didn't realize how needy I was. I didn't realize how hurt I was by, my father, who left when I was 12, who was an alcoholic, who was dysfunctional, by women who have been damaged by this society, or just narcissistic women who are themselves damaging this society, right? I've learned so much through the red pill, right? It just taught me that I was a very hurt person. It taught me that I was a very damaged person, but it showed me the other side. It was like, well, wait a minute. It's not just you. It's not just that you're hurt and you're damaged. This world is hurt, and this world is damaged, and this world is sick. So for that, I am so thankful for the red pill, because it really just, it was other men who were saying, yeah, this is not right. We're not being respected. We're not being treated right. You know, it was other men who were saying that. And so it felt like I had a brotherhood. It felt like I had people who were going through the same things I was going through, and they were able to shed light on it from a positive perspective. Whereas before I found the red pill, I didn't have anyone. I didn't have anyone telling me these things. I didn't have anyone. I was experiencing these things, and I didn't have any place to put it. Like, I didn't have any, there was no category I could put what I was experiencing in. So it was like what I was experiencing was just part of me. It was like, well, this is just my experience. So I felt like I was the only one who was experiencing these things, right? So when I found the red pill, it was like, oh wow, this isn't uncommon. This isn't like just me. There's so many other guys who are going through this stuff, right? And now where I'm at now is it's a totally different place, because now I can go online and guys are saying like the words right out of my head. Like everything I'm experiencing, everything I'm feeling, everything I'm going through, guys are saying word for word, verbatim. And it's almost like they're connected to my experience. It's almost like there's a plug that's plugged into my experience, and my experience is just being filtered through that plug into their videos. And it's amazing. And I'm just like, wow, like that is something I never thought that would happen in my life. I never considered that other people were experiencing word for word, experience for experience, exactly what I'm experiencing. And that's amazing. And I don't know how to really describe that. I just think it's awesome. I just think that, you know, it's amazing, because if I didn't find the red pill, if I didn't find these guys out here saying the same things that I'm going through, that I'm thinking, that I'm feeling, right? If I didn't find that, who knows, man? I just feel so alone. I'd feel so isolated, and I did feel so isolated and alone for a lot of years, you know, of my life. You know, I found the red pill at like 2014, something like that, 2013, 14, and it was right after it was right after a bad breakup. So I explained this in my videos where I said she was for the streets. I kind of talk, but it's way too long, so I had to just private it. I want to talk about this experience, but I don't really know how, so I'm gonna try. But maybe for the next 20 minutes or so, I'll try. But it's really like a saga. And at the end of the day, it's like, what I can take from it is that I never found a quality woman. You know, I never found a quality girlfriend. I never found a quality wife. Let's be clear. I wanted a wife. I wanted to get married. Now I'm pretty much opposed to marriage for obvious reasons. Unless I found somebody who made more money than me, or I found somebody who, you know, who made more money than me, because anyway, I just don't know how I'm going to go about doing this video. It's very difficult. So let me say this. I met this girl 2011. Her name was Julie. We started a sexual relationship. I was out being a player. Actually, you know, to really understand this story, my dad left when I was 12 years old. I wanted him to. I don't know if I wanted him to be anything, but he was just a dysfunctional alcoholic, and that's just what it was, and that's just the life that I was thrust into. Him and my mom argued all the time, so that caused damage probably to my emotions and damage to my family, and I never really knew what a proper family was. So I think that from day one I was messed up, and I didn't have any real reference, you know, for what I was going through, and I didn't have any. We really didn't have a lot of good experiences in my family, right? But I learned that even with this girl, like, for instance, this girl has a great family. Well, her family split up too, so it's hard to say. You know, her parents divorced, but her dad, and I don't know about her mom. Her mom seems a little jaded or whatever. I don't know. But her dad, seems like a joyful guy. So I think she gets her joy from her dad, because she had joy. So I think she got that from her dad. And her mom supposedly was a Christian and you know, married some other guy. And I don't really know a whole lot about her mom. I know her mom, she kind of takes after her mom and her personality. Her mom is kind of quiet, and I don't know. So because I don't know a whole lot about her mom, it could be that she gets a lot of how messed up she is from her mom. But you know, divorce is hard. Kids go through divorce, and so and that was one of my red flags back when I made a red flags video against, or, you know, about women, is like, if she's a product of divorce, that's a red flag. Like, kids who are a product of divorce, guy or girl, it's a problem. It's a red flag, right? And if you're dating a girl and she's a product of divorce, you know, you might want to be careful on that, because anybody who comes from divorce, you know, like I said, guy or girl, it can really affect them. It can really affect their life. And so my parents actually never divorced. They separated, but they never divorced, because my mom was religious and she didn't want to get a divorce, and my dad was just out of it. He was doing drugs and drinking and basically finding any way to ruin himself, and he did. That, you know, eventually he had a stroke, and I think it was 2009, 2010, around there. Actually, ironically, a year and a half or so before I met Julie. And he died, I think he was 63, 61, 63, so really not that old. But he was drinking for, you know, 50 years of his life, 60 years of his life. Or, well, if he died at 61, that doesn't make sense, does it? So it must have been 50 years of his life. I can't remember how old he was when he died. I know he was like, I think he was like 3 or 4 years younger than my mom. And my mom is now 75 in 2021. So 10 years ago, she would have been 64, 60. So yeah, he was about 61, 62, 63, around there. So he was drinking since he was like 15. So he probably drank for about 40, 45 years of his life consistently, right? So, you know that's alcoholism for you. But he had a stroke and he died. So, you know, that's the result of that type of life. That you know, taught me not what to do, taught me not to be like that. But it also broke up my parents' marriage. And you know, it's arguable whether or not my parents were even really that in love. You know, I think my mom married him because he was just there, and she was single, and she was kind of a rolling stone herself, and then she started going to church and pursuing God, and then he was incidentally going to church and pursuing God, and then he wanted her, and they just hooked up. And my mom was actually pretty back in the day. She was actually really pretty. And I don't think that she really loved my dad all that much. And it's weird how women operate. You know, it's weird why they do things. And she was a single mom herself. And I'll say it now, and I'll say it for, you know, a million years: avoid single moms. Single moms are trouble, you know. And I say that with my mom being a single mom. You know, it's just the truth. You know, so. Yeah, that happened, and I don't think they were really ever that in love. And the reason why I say that is because it you know, it affected me. And she had married other men, you know, before him, and she had a kid from another guy, and all kinds of stuff like that. And so they married, and then you know, they had my older brother, my older siblings, my older brother, my older sister, and then about 7 years after that, they had me. So I was kind of like this unplanned thing that just came along for some reason 7 years down the road. And that was it. I was the last one, and my mom went and got her tubes tied, or, you know, that procedure where they take out the placenta or whatever the fuck. And so she was done after that. And yeah, my father was never really he was never really a great guy. He worked hard, and he did his best as far as that goes. He always went to work and worked hard, but he wanted to come home and drink. And I mean, you know, I've got some good memories with him. He took us sledding. He played baseball with me. You know, he wasn't like just a total wreck of a human being, but he wasn't that far off from being that, you know. And it was because of alcohol. It was because he was hurt himself. His father had hurt him, and his father used to beat him, and so he was a hurt person. And he left, and so that hurt me. And the reason why I say that is because I think now I realize that when he left, I was looking for something to replace him, and I wanted it in a woman. I wanted love. I remember wanting love as early as like 14, 15, 16 years old. And that's really young to want love, to tell you the truth. That's really, you know, you might want a girlfriend, a kissy because girls are cute, but I didn't really feel like that. I wanted love. And so what it was I think I wanted something to replace that hurt that I had from him. You know, I wanted something to replace that hole that he left in my life by leaving. And I was looking for it in a woman, and that's not, you shouldn't do that. You know, and I didn't know that at the time. And really I didn't even know that that's what it was. I just thought I wanted love. But I think that looking back, that's kind of what it was, is I wanted something. What I really wanted was his love. I think what I really wanted is the love from my parents being together. And that's a hard thing to admit. It's a hard thing to realize. And then I was angry a lot. I was angry that happened, and I was angry that he left, and I was angry that it happened the way that it did, and I was angry that he was the way he was, you know, and I was angry for a very long time. And then things happened in my life, and I changed a bit, and I started going to church and things, and I changed a bit more, and at some point I decided I wanted a wife. And I think it was because it wasn't, at that point, I think I was like 21, 22, and it wasn't because I was trying to replace or find that love that he left in my life. It was more so because I was lonely. I became lonely, and I wanted love from a companionship perspective, which is, I think, better than wanting to fill a void from your parents, you know, being dysfunctional. But it still didn't work. And I realized at a certain point that maybe I'm just not that attractive. Maybe, you know, I didn't feel very attractive because of that. I mean, there was girls that I liked, but they weren't into me. And it took me a long, long time to realize that, you know, realize what attracted women. And it was guys who have their stuff together, guys who have careers, guys who have mortgages, guys who are paying bills, and that's what really attracts women. It's really animalistic, and that took me a very long time to understand that. It took me a very long time to get that that's what women want. Now, mind you, during this time or before this time in high school, you know, girls were going for bad guys, girls were going for the cool guy, the popular guy. So I sort of pieced together that women were kind of messed up, but I felt like, you know, when I went to church, I felt like God was going to bring me a wife, because I felt like, you know, everything in the Bible said that, you know, he takes care of us, he gives us all our needs and things like that. And I felt like I needed a wife. I felt like it was time for me to have a companion. You know, mind you, this was like 21, 22 years old, 23 years old. And I didn't piece it together that, well, I think I have to get my shit together first. I have to get a career first. And it's like, at the time, I didn't get that. I thought that, you know, well, church girls are going to be different than girls out in the world. You know, girls out in the world want the guy who is, you know, cool, and he's got the cool car, and he's the cool guy, or he's the bad boy. And it's true, girls do want that, younger girls. But at a certain point, when they want to settle down, you know, we know they go ride the cock carousel. But at church, it's a bit different. They don't really ride the cock, at least at my church. I'm sure at other churches, you know, whatever. But even though they might have that in them, I don't think girls, you know, they could do that. They want to go do that. They want to go ride the cock carousel. But I don't think they do in my church. But they do want a guy with money, right? You got to have your shit together, or else they're not going to be interested in you. And so it took me a minute to realize that. So I wanted a girl. There was a few girls that I was interested in, and I, you know, did my little thing and tried to talk to them, and it just failed miserably. And I realized it was because I don't have my shit together. I'm not like this I don't dress as well as the other guys in church. Because I didn't have money, and I didn't really have a good job. Anyway, I didn't have a good job, and I was going to college, part-time, and I wasn't ready financially to jump into a marriage, as far, get a house or get an apartment and jump into it. I just couldn't afford it. I wasn't ready. I was still going to college and things, and I didn't realize that that's how women were. I didn't realize that until I got bitter, and it was like there was probably about 3 or 4 girls that I was really interested in, that I was attracted to, and that I was trying to have a relationship with, and I just failed miserably with all of them. And I thought that things would be different. I thought that because I'm in church, God's gonna take care of me and bring me someone, and it just didn't happen. And I failed miserably, and I was just like, at a certain point I got jaded and I got disenfranchised with church, and it wasn't mostly because of that. It was about maybe 50 or 60% of that. There was also some issues with the church that I was going to, as far as like I just didn't feel like I fit in. I had been going to this other church in a different city, and then I kind of got sick and I wasn't sleeping right, and so I had to move back home. And I moved back in with my mom, and I was taking care of her because she had her sicknesses and I had my sicknesses, and we were kind of taking care of each other. And I was trying to get on disability and these different things because I had this sleeping problem. I had this sleeping illness, which was later diagnosed as something called non-24, which is a circadian rhythm disruption illness. And that happened over the course of the 2010s or 2000s or late 2000s. And at a certain point, I think it was like 2009, around there, I really just got disenfranchised with God because I moved to this, like I said, I moved back in with my mom. So it was this other city that I moved to where they had this different church. It's the same branch of churches, but it was a different locality. And the people there, I couldn't relate with, and I didn't feel like they were really enjoying God or praying the right way. And it was just like, I didn't sense God at this place. I just sensed this weird scenario. And it was almost like when I would go to church, I would just feel worse than when I didn't go to church, and I couldn't understand it. And I eventually stopped going, and I never really went back. There's a different church that I go to now, which is better, but it's in a different locality. But anyway, long story short, I got disenfranchised with that church, and essentially I got disenfranchised with God. So I think what happened was I essentially just left. I left church, and I left really my consecration to God, and I went out and started to date girls in the world who weren't even Christian, and it was like, we've been taught that that's not something you should do, because why would you date somebody who doesn't believe the same thing as you? It's dangerous, it's like, and that's just a general truthism in general. You shouldn't date somebody who has different beliefs than you. If you're a believer and you're dating an atheist or something, it just doesn't add up. It's not smart. But I thought, what, screw it. I don't, and I was disenfranchised with girls as well. Because I realized that these girls didn't want me because I didn't have money. I realized that these girls didn't want me. They weren't even interested in me probably because I wasn't that attractive, but also because I didn't have money and I didn't dress right. And I think that they kind of knew that there was something wrong with me. It was like, why is he 23, 24 years old living with his mom? Why isn't he graduated from college? Why doesn't he have money? And it's like they pieced it together, and they didn't want anything to do with me. And on top of that, I'm not that. I'm probably not that physically attractive. Girls have been attracted to me. I'm a tall guy, but I don't think my face is all that. I'm probably like maybe on a good day maybe a 6 out of 10 if I'm lucky. And that's just the truth. And that's another bitter red truth that I had to swallow, was that looks mattered. And I've talked about that in other videos. But these are all things that I've pieced together over the years, and I've, because I mean, I've always had girlfriends. Like, I've always had girlfriends. It's just the difference is that how I acquired them was not like easy. I had to get status first, or I had to, in high school I played on the basketball team, so I had girls interested in me because I had status, and I didn't realize that, it took me a long time, it took me until after I didn't have those things, like after I moved to a different city where I didn't have all the friends and social status, and I wasn't on the basketball team anymore, so I didn't have that clout, right? It took me, that kind of red pilled me. It took that, for me to realize, well, this is how female nature is, right? And then even further red pilled when I realized that, if I don't have money, I can't find love, right? So there's a lot of different ways to look at this. On the other hand, there's a whole nother way to look at it, is that, I'm a pretty sexual guy, right? I've always liked, porn, and I've always liked sex and things like that. And I like the female body, and it turns me on. And like, I think that maybe because of that, God has not brought me somebody. Maybe because of that, God has not, the Bible says in Ecclesiastes, it says that when a man finds a wife, he finds a blessing from God. And I've always wondered why God didn't do it. I've always wondered why God didn't bring me somebody. At my age now, I'm 37. And so, I'm getting on in age, although I feel young. I think that because of my life circumstances, I didn't age psychologically in the same way that other people age psychologically and emotionally. I feel young. I've always felt like 7 or 8, maybe even 9 or 10 years younger in my mentality than I was in my physical body, which is a really strange thing, but it's true. I know a lot of other guys who are my age who are just way more. They seem more aged in their their psychology. But I guess maybe it's all relative. I don't know. I go to like farmers markets and stuff. I go to malls and things like that. And there's all kinds of different people and different experiences and things like that, which is an interesting thing about life. We all have similar experiences, but we all have different experiences as well. So, people age differently, and so I've seen guys my age who look pretty young, and they're pretty youthful in their character, disposition, things like that. So I guess maybe it just is what it is. I don't know, but I spent a lot of years kind of not being social, and so I felt like an oddity because of that. I spent a lot of years being isolated and things like that because of my illness, because I didn't have friends, or because I just didn't want to go out and be social. At a certain point, I think in 2016, from like 2016 to 2018, I kind of, went through this metamorphosis where I decided I got to get out of my shell. I got to go out and talk to people. I got to go out and talk to girls. I got to go out and be social. And the next 3 years up until now, I've been doing that. And it's kind of been a transformation for me. It's kind of been a transforming experience where, I've come out of my shell and started to be more social. And I had a lot of hang-ups, man, before that. I really did, because of all the things I've been through, because of my illness and all this stuff, and feeling like a loser for not being able to work because I've been sick and things like that. And there's different ways to look at it, but I just, ultimately used to be pretty isolated, and then I got unisolated, and it was like, anyway, so let me see, where did I leave off? Oh yeah, okay. So in 2009, around there, I got disenfranchised with this church, and I went out and started dating girls, from websites, from dating websites. So I didn't care if they were Christian or not. All I really wanted was to get laid. All I really wanted was to hook up, because I was tired of getting rejected by women for marriage. I was tired of getting rejected by these Christian girls. And then I felt like maybe I'm just a loser, maybe I'm just ugly and no girl ever wants me, and maybe I'm just, I used to think it was because I was ugly, and I didn't realize that, that plays a part, your looks play a part, but really these girls wanted money. They're not interested in a guy for long-term marriage if it's not for money. Now, mind you, I was reading things telling me that, like, I should look for my other half, and there's, you hear things like, there's somebody out there for everyone, you should look for your other half, and there's this perfect person out there for you, and you wonder if that's real. You're like, well, then why haven't I found her yet? Why am I 30 years old in 14 or whatever. Why am I 30 years old and I'm single? I remember being 30, turning 30 and thinking like, why am I single? Like why do I not have a wife? Because like now at my age, 37, like guys in my church, they've got kids who are like 10 years old now, right? They've got kids and it's like, I go to church and I see this, and it's hard for me not to feel some type of way. I feel hurt. I feel mad at God. Like, why couldn't I have a family? Where's my great wife? And I realize, well, these guys have good jobs. These guys have good careers, and this is what these women want. And then people might, pragmatically or practically respond to that and say like, well, yeah, how are you going to have a family, or how are you going to have kids if you don't have a good job, or things like that? And it's like, yeah, that's a good point. I agree with that. But also, because I'm red-pilled, I look at it differently. Because I'm red-pilled, I look at it like, well, maybe I can't have kids if I don't have a good job, but why can't I have a woman if I don't have a good job? See, then it's like, okay, well, it's you have to realize at that point that it's female nature, the reason why you don't have a wife, because you don't have a good job, right? So anyway, I'm running out of battery here. I'm going to upload this, and then I'm going to start on part 2, where I'm going to talk about Julie, because it's what I really wanted to talk about was Julie, and I really wanted to sort of explain, what Julie taught me about female nature and kind of narcissism and just how fucked up it was, that relationship that I went through with her. There's a few other relationships that I had that I could mention, but I don't want to get too deep into it because I got too deep into it in those other series of videos, and I just felt like it was way too much talking, and I wasn't really focused on what I should have, focused on a point, like, well, why did this happen and what does this teach? I was just telling the story, and I just felt like it was too long-winded. But anyway, I'm going to leave this here, and then I'm going to come back with the second part where I'm going to, get more into, what I learned from Julie and things like that. And anyway, this somewhat is a story too, but I think it's a little more, so far it seems to be a little more on point, on topic. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Check out part 2. Thanks for listening. Peace.